Right, 3 phone radios. I'm on fire. Yep, you're with me. All right. So, so I'm going to talk about 3 stages of amending something. Um, I'm pretty sure that's something that exists online. I got like there are some things that I'm figuring out, and the only reason I probably am figuring it out is because there are many things that happen around me. But what I realized something is, well, stage number one, you have to write everything on your head outside. And then you ask enough questions about whatever came out of your head. So while we were fixing the questionnaire, the first thing we did was we established what we were wanted to be, what's the intention behind this questionnaire, and why do we care to actually make these phone calls. And then from there, we established a road to the end result. And what I did was, it was simple. It was like, okay, so how do we start a conversation without us basically in the most neutral way, and how do we build on top of it? And that's where the questions, the six, seven, eight questions, I think, basically found themselves. Like, what are we first going to ask him, then second and third, and how many questions does it take for us to be able to like smoothly land him to the idea that we want him to be thinking about? That was stage one. But we had a lot of discussion with the questions, and because the first thing we did was just throw the questions towards our intention. Because by the end of the call, I want the customer to feel like, huh, these guys are pretty cool. They called me, they're nice. I'm glad I worked with them at one point. And I wanted them to understand that this is a legitimate goal that we very much would require because every person that feels that way towards us is going to talk about us for others, or at the very least, like in the we once these loyal customers are basically our marketing base. Uh, there are die-hard fans of brands worldwide. Now we don't have the most glamorous of fucking like products when it comes to technology, but if we had a guy that after 7 years found our number on some book that he wrote and gave us a call because he was like, that tank has been with me for 7 years, and I am going to call to see if they're still available, so we can actually give them a tank. And I really think, and I think it's a given that these are the people that normally hold us up, especially in times where like competition is heavy, because they're loyal to the brand, man. But so stage one is understanding the questions that I want to ask. That what are the questions that we want to ask, and organizing them in a way where they kind of trickle after each other. Because you don't want to ask something, a question, where the answer to it could have been insinuated by another question. And I can use an example if you guys want. I could actually look at to-do list, questionnaire, logo brand book. Sorry, I have a lot of them. So, all right. So one of the questions would be, I want to be checking on the water in your area. But instead of asking a question like this, I could actually ask about how whatever is affecting the area and whatever is happening around is affecting whatever's happening in the region is affecting you guys. And then I could throw a couple of options, like how's it affecting the economy? How's it affecting the government over there? How's it affecting the living conditions? How's it affecting the water or the droughts or like are right? Like what are the amenities that you don't have? And then whatever he mentions, I basically see if water's involved or not. That thought process where you kind of like isolate a certain kind of like key points, key words that you want to get in a conversation and try to see if you can extract the most of them early because the more they're repeated, the more they stick in the mind. And also, it's a psychological thing. And with marketing, they very much not do that. Like, if an advertisement passes in front of your eyes 7 times, you become too familiar with it. It becomes okay for you to check it out, even though you're not interested. And eventually, you develop an interest, which is like mind boggling. But ultimately, we are literally a product of our environment. So if our environment is designed in a way where our concentration, our focus is going towards these things. But anyways, so one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, yes, nine. So nine questions basically that we have in total. And I think they make about 5 minutes of conversation, which is good enough, especially if you're calling somebody and go like, we haven't talked in like 3, 4 years. So people will be like, oh, okay, 5 minutes is enough. But that's stage number one. With stage number two, what happened was they actually went and they took the questions that we wrote and I made them elaborate on them and ask them in different ways. And the goal behind it was to see which of the ways are a bit less, not less offensive, are less guiding. Because if every single, if the questions that we have are kind of guiding in a certain like response, then ultimately we're not getting the truth out of the customer. And that's also something that car salesmen do. If you're, and I think they call it brute force a sale. Because if I keep guiding you, you have to make the sale as soon as possible. Because the minute you leave that door, you're going to come back to kind of like your own thoughts, and you're going to be like, no, do I really want it? Or did it just at the moment make sense enough for me to kind of say yes to it? And it's funny because it's genuinely a thing. Like you can do it with people, you can do it with any product. You can sell any product that way. You can literally engage with people through any product by kind of like zoning them down. But these are not the actual sales that would sustain you or the sales that would actually last with you. And when I say last, I mean like these customers are not really recurring customers. Because even if it's something that's good for them, they still do not necessarily feel like they're the ones that made the decision. They always end up with a feeling where they felt where they were imposed upon. Because even though that's exactly what they wanted, they did not buy it the way they wanted to buy it. They did not approach it the way they wanted to approach it. So I know full well that even though we get what we want, or but the information, like I don't want the data that we get from the customers to be corrupt in any way from our intention. Because if we're asking a question that's intentionally pointing him in that direction, and he gives it that answer, it's not an answer I can use. It shouldn't be, because then the data that I'm using is biased towards like certain kind of like answers that are not really coming truthfully from the people. And naturally, I took an hour and a half trying to explain that point and trying to see if we ask questions differently and how we actually could approach the same question in different ways. It was super fun because, like at the very least, what we did was uh, we just used different colors, and I started pointing how fun it could be for us to like use different colors while we're actually interacting uh, with the form. Like each one of us has its own color. If I were to comment, I'll be the color black. I'll be the color red. If they were to comment, they'll be the color blue. And then I gave one color pink, and he was like, "No," and I'm like, "What brings out your eyes?" And we laughed for like 5 seconds, but then he chose a different color. We gave him purple. But so it was nice because we started kind of like organizing. Okay, so this is a question that we actually highlight because we thought about this, and these are the answers we gave it. So we started like creating a certain coloring system. It was super fun. But then the third time that we did it, he basically like came up to me and was like, okay, so like when we asked the people to translate it to their language, a lot of them found some explanations or meanings a bit different. So we had to alter it one last time. And then when we had the meeting, the third meeting, which is basically the third stage of amending something, when we had the meeting, we actually like established that questions one last time. And then after that, the goal was for us to go back to point zero, but take all the questions that we decided upon after all the mess we did and put them on a new paper. And now everything we do from there basically has to go through the same 3 stages, where we engage with them and see how far we can take them. We take a step back, we come back with the fixes, but we keep the notes on the same paper, and then we basically go back and forth and see if that makes sense, or we test them. We have to test them one way or another. And with that happening, basically, I think, I don't know how relevant it is, but it worked, and they were completely like in tune with it. So I think So I am definitely going to use this approach in almost every new thing we're going to be trying in the future. And depending on how positive the feedback goes with the first experimental subjects that we're going to be calling using this questionnaire, I have to kind of like channel it in a way where they get the confidence they need out of it in order for them to be able to kind of like trust that whatever it is that we're doing is not really such a big deal. Because that's like right now I'm working with two and half of them thinks thinks it's a big deal. So once they see some results or some form of like positive results, we could actually like get excited about like moving forward and engaging with something new. So it's super fun. And mm, these are fun stuff, man, aren't they? It's like, isn't that what like people get excited about when they're sitting together and discussing ideas? Thank you.